Hi, welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. It's 3 o'clock, it's Wednesday, so it's poetry, gaming, and sports days, along with our special profile of Pritesh Patel, which we're bringing to you as part of our Black History Month coverage. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. I'm artistic director of Together 2012. I have short, headed red hair, black framed glasses, green eyes, green t shirt with equality written across it in pink, and silver coloured jewellery. With me in my East London studio, as always, because she's been locked in with me since March, is the artist and our chair, Julie Newman. Julie, what do you look like?
I'd like to say lovely, but I'm afraid my hair isn't quite up to the mark today. I have, which is in fact gold and silver. I have dark rimmed glasses. I have a very pleasant blue T-shirt, which is now becoming, I imagine, very familiar because it's got rabbits in a Celtic knot. So much as usual from this part of the sofa.
Yes, and one of the reasons your hair's not up to scratch is a lack of water. So once we've gone over to the other end of our long-wheeled virtual sofa to the West Midlands for some introduction and audio descriptions, I'm just going to give a little bit of information out for anybody in East London. So over in Sutton Coldfield. Okay, we're not got any sound at all at the moment. You're still on virtual mute. I'll take you off. Try again.
Okay, that is very confusing. Sorry, people, because we didn't use that mute. All very strange. Anyway, so good afternoon from Sutton Coldfield. I am Robin Surgeoner, Business Director at Together 2012, co-host of Unlocked, and artist known as Angry Fish. Um, in a moment, when Ju's talking, I'm going to lower our screen ever so slightly because there's a horrible glare that you might be facing if you are able to see that. So today, what do I look like? I have the hair of the internally harassed, in specifically grey today. I think I am wearing no rimmed black armed glasses. Behind them, I am hiding blue eyes, and I am sort of got a George Michael shadow today, or is it George Clooney? One of those Georges, one of the gorgeous Georges, anyway.
Gorgeous George.
Yeah, gorgeous George. That's
Gorgeous
me.
George.
And I am wear below that. I am wearing a hoodie because it's now winter in Sutton Coldfield, at least today. And it's a kind of mix. It's got a the hoodie has a purple lining. I have dark blue shoulders and a grey lower half, or just below from the chest downwards is grey. I hope that gives you a lovely picture.
It does. You're coming through a little bit quiet from Sutton Coldfield, all those miles away. So do speak into your mic really close, Josh, if you
Okay.
want to come over and do some introductions.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Josh Surgeoner. I'm also one of the hosts of Together Unlocked, and I am a PhD student. I have long blonde hair um, and a ginger beard that's more curious George than gorgeous George, I think. And I am wearing a black and red hooded top, quite a thin top, and then in big letters across, well, stomach/chest, I guess. It says
Stomach.
Miami in big white letters because it is still the NBA Finals, and Miami are still playing. They're just about holding on. They're currently 3-1 down, but I'm
Uh,
hoping that they're going to rally and come back and win. So and still supporting Miami until the finals are over.
that's all slightly meaningless to me, but we will have Josh with his gaming and virtual sport roundup after 3:30. For anybody living in East London who's not had a great deal of access to social media, you might be watching this on YouTube, on the TV. We have had no water from yesterday afternoon in Newham and parts of Redbridge. It has come back slightly temporarily. Guys, I'm just going to switch you off for a minute so that we don't get distracted. I'd love to see their faces now, but they're off the screen. So, Thames Water are asking everybody to spread the news. They had a major pipe burst in Hackney Marshes yesterday afternoon. And who would have guessed one pipe supplies the entire borough and parts of the next borough? Most of you should have some water back now. They've been reconnecting pipes around the breakage. They've been literally tipping water into the system. What you don't need to do is tell the council or any other landlord or try to phone Thames Water to tell them you've got a problem. They're the ones that have got a problem, and fortunately, they do know about it. Julie, I understand at the Pop Up Poetry Club this morning you wrote an extra poem on that very theme.
Well, I got very excited, as I do. Sort of popped in to clean my teeth, and without thinking, turned the tap on, and there was water, and I got very excited.
We do lead sad lives as shielders, don't we?
Very sad lives. But little things please us so much. So how joyous is that? So this is just a very quick. It's called Relief. The water's on, the water's back. There's plenty now to drink. I turned the tap, the water flowed, it ran and filled the sink. I danced with joy and sang a tune and washed my fork and spoon. But then I paused and stopped a while. Suppose it didn't stay. The worry grew and wiped my smile. Would it last the day? I turned the tap and cut the flow, must keep it safe, not let it go. That's it for now, no more to say. I'll have to wait and see. I hope it stays, not go away. That someone hears my plea. Please make it right and fix the leak before the day turns cold and bleak.
So, Thames Water, we are both separately on your vulnerable customer list. You claimed on social media you were contacting us all and bringing us around free bottles of water. No. So yes, we're all crossing everything. I was really, really thrilled actually to be able to have a small wash earlier because I was just feeling very stiff and grubby from yesterday doing chores. But anyway, Julie, the Pop Up Poetry Club is part of our year round outreach program. It's free for any disabled person who can get to it, which of course means you now, wherever you are in the country. And we have all sorts of clubs now running again virtually, but the Pop Up Poetry Club, which was the first one to come back, is a phone based group. We do that because we know that so many people, if they have got social media, don't have unlimited access to data. So, with our phone based group, we phone you, or rather, the wonderful Noel, our engagement support worker, phones you, and we pay for the calls. We've managed to translate the clubs, I think, kind of very similar to how we run them in real life. So, for a number of years now, what happens with the Pop Up Poetry Club is we get together with a cup of tea or a coffee and some biscuits at 10:30. We share a poem, often somebody else's poem that we've found. We maybe do some voice exercises or talk about poetry, and then we write our own. What's been happening with the Pop Up Poetry Club by phone is that period when you write, that sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, you come off the call, don't you? And then you get called back. And to make it a little bit more, I was going to say structured, but I think that's what we've realized. It kind of needs to be a little bit more structured when you're doing it virtually. We have a theme every week, and this week's theme is together. We're going to put a video on a little bit later to tell you more about our Join In From Home program, which is based on our website and indeed which this live stream is part of. And writing a poem on the theme of together is also part of our Join In From Home program. We're publishing an anthology next month to celebrate Disability History Month, so do send us those poems if you haven't already. And as I've said before, you're not restricted to one poem. If you've got lots of things to say about together, send them all in. How did it go this morning?
Oh, it was great. I was really touched actually by some of the poems because there was a reference to ourselves. And I thought it was very generous of the poets. Um, it was a nice mix, as always. it was lovely to see some familiar. Well, I didn't see them, but I heard some familiar voices who hadn't been able to join quite so actively previously. So we really welcomed them back. Um, there- I think what the thing that struck me this morning was the honesty. People were mostly people are honest. But there's a power that comes with that authenticity when people write from their own experience, and that's extraordinarily powerful.
Josh, I think you might have a device on at your end where we're getting a bit of an echo coming through from what we're just saying here. But I'm wondering, Robin, are you able to start with reading Duncan Bridgestock's poem from this morning?
Yeah, although we haven't got any devices on, so I don't, I don't know. Anyway, yes, of course.
Regular
Gremlins.
viewers will know that the internet has gremlins, and we gave up some time ago being able to name every single technical problem that was totally inexplicable. Clearly, there are gremlins. We use a public broadcasting service platform called Be Live. Mostly, we like it because it's really accessible. But again, if you're a regular viewer, you will know that everything has its limits. On the other hand, I understand the BBC and Sky, with much bigger budgets, are having very similar problems. So you apparently don't get what you pay for. So if you're ready, Robin, Duncan Bridgestock's Together poem.
Yep. Hi. Thank you again, Duncan, for this great poem, simply entitled "Together." Together unlocked is as flexible as leather. It wouldn't be doing so well without Noel, Alison, Julie, Robin, and Josh. Life would be splosh, and the other Together poets know it. Together is the feather in my cap.
Oh, thanks, Robin, and thanks, Duncan. I think if we get any feedback that your voice is a little bit quiet, we might end up getting you to share and move your microphones between each other because Josh's is a little bit louder. Julie, you wrote a poem about Together. Do you want to read that next?
Okie doke. Um, Together, before and after, sunshine and rain, sweet and sour, again and again, poetry comes in many sizes, verses large and verses small, words that sing in many guises, opposites attracting, short and tall, poles apart that push then pull, seeming empty then so full. Is it up or is it down? Is it night or is it day? In the country or the town? Is it working or at play? Picking words to tell a story, writing forward, then reverse. Something that will shine with glory, something subtle but in verse. How to spin the words together, some are better, some are worse. Is it bitter, is it sweet? Is it open or is it closed? Is it head or is it feet? Is it top or is it toes? Together we can make a change, using words to tell a tale. Some we struggle to arrange, some will seem to work then fail. How it looks or how it flows, it's a story that just grows.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Julie. This is Taylor Henvilles. Taylor is a filmmaker and also a volunteer with us. Time in the house or on the doorstep, going nowhere. Everyone eternally indoors. Together for now, hoping for the future. Everyone wishing for a life, returned or reimagined anew. And thank you, Taylor. Josh, am I able to come over to you next for a poem by Blake Jarrett Gibbons? Blake was actually one of our very first volunteers back in 2012. In fact, he was our first volunteer on our annual film festival, and we'll tell you more about that on Monday.
Yes. Can you hear? Are we coming through loud?
You're coming through fine as long as you're close to the microphone. So,
Okay. So this is Together by Blake. Together, London came for sport in 2012. As did many other countries, even years on, we are still together. Together is how we become, sometimes physically, sometimes mentally, even emotionally. At times, all three way, all our senses together. Of course, life gets hard, but we will get through when we are together as one with our inner self. Getting together while staying apart, clapping for our key workers, minus the government, with a chance to be social, we take it even if it means only space is available till 10 p.m. We still get together. Everyone is individual and everyone is acting their way, and let us remember that. Time, something we don't respect enough. Tick tock goes your clock as you read this and think, thinking about what are we reading, listening to it in our head. In your head, there lies a maze of cells and electrical energy. Healthy? Am I? I guess so. I'm still here and more than likely writing another piece while you are still reading this. Notice you sped up reading, but thinking, ooh, I want to read the next, want to read the rest and the next piece. Don't worry, you're more than halfway through this. Don't worry, this helps my mental health. Sorry you can't see below my surface. My mental health is mine, and remember, not everything is visible. Equally, that's how I would love to be treated. Will this ever be the case? What is equal? What is normal? Lots of love and hugs are felt along with the rest of life. Ready, ready to go. Go out where? Go inside instead. Go to bed. We are ready when all our senses are together. The more support, the better. Going on forward together. The best way is together. Even if we are apart physically, remember we are together. Together our key workers work. Together is the way we learn. Remember, those working together for us. Let's come together for them, and together we will have our best lives.
Oh, do you know that almost brought tears to my eyes, and in a good way, I have to say, to both you and to Blake. I thought you read that beautifully as well, Josh. Thank you. So, this final one from this morning is Dawn Barber, and Dawn again has been one of our volunteers right from the start, as well as one of our artists. And this is called Pull Together. Let's all pull together and help one another now times are bad. Let's be kind and loving and respectful. Let laughter be around and smiles to brighten up our lives. We need to try and be positive, even though life is so upside down. I know there are days when we don't feel good, but let's let the sun shine through our hearts and know there are good times to come. So, I'd love to say that was by design, but in fact, by accident. Those last two poems in particular, I felt were incredibly uplifting.
Oh yeah, and you see what I mean about the power of authenticity. You know, sort of when people talk from their own experience or something about something that's meaningful for them, there's a real power to it.
Now, I wanted to pick up because Alison Marchant, who's the international artist who works part time as our club's program leader, has made quite a bit of work and is very out about the fact that she has dyslexia. And it's National Dyslexia Week, isn't it? So, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's part of a world dyslexia awareness initiative, but British Dyslexia Association um, have got a load of resources on their website, educational resources and campaigning stuff as well. The day itself is tomorrow, the 8th, I think. Is that right? Yeah. I don't know.
Yes, Josh is nodding. We know he's
I
got his
think it's
magic
the 8th
iPad on
tomorrow.
his lap.
We might have water as well. But no, the tomorrow is the designated day. Disability Arts Online have done a whole piece on it as well, which is useful. There's a lovely piece by Stephen Lee Hodgkins, who's an old friend of ours, of Togethers and individually, who's also an out dyslexic, and he always writes very movingly and very well about his experiences, and he's a very good poet as well, actually.
Yes, and I think this gives me a really good opportunity to say on our website, if you go to our website, www.together2012.org.uk, then we have a highlights and links page under the main Together TV menu. And on the highlights and links page, we will post all of the poems that you here today, all the videos that you see, and critically links to anything we've discussed. So the links to the Disability Arts online article, the Dyslexia Society, and so on. What we do offer in terms of the Together program is if you want to join in the poetry club, but you're not confident in handwriting, or you simply can't for whatever reason, you can't see well enough, you can't use your hands, we can provide somebody for you to dictate to. We've always had at least one person, if you like, when we've been delivering. I never know the right term because virtually is real life, but in more usual times, we always have at least one person using a scribe. It's a very straightforward way of being able to write. And yeah, I would thoroughly recommend it. So if you feel that you can't join the poetry club or you can't join in another activity because you need a hand, we can support you with that. Was there anything you wanted to add about the Dyslexia Awareness Week?
Yeah, I did a bit of reading about dyslexia and poetry because I found it quite interesting. For example, in Alison's practice, what she's demonstrated is how she can change words round and use other people's words and make them her own in a very distinctive style. One of the things that the information on the internet said was that haiku is a really good way to get into poetry, as is also limericks. If you're dyslexic, apparently this because of the sounds. I think the sounds work quite well for you. But I think it's an interesting concept and certainly something we should explore.
Because the haiku is a 3-line poem, and I think is it 575 sounds or something like that, and you have a cutting sound at the end. So you can tell anybody who really knows about poetry, my theory is a little bit scrambled. But yes, if you don't know what a haiku is, it is a very short form of poetry. There's a whole range of disabled artists have made fascinating work around dyslexia in the past. I don't know if anybody can remember the artist who, I think it was a pen where you have razor blades kind of sticking out, but it was a very, very powerful kind of expression of just how stressful and difficult it can be to be forced into doing anything, particularly in an educational setting, if you don't have the right support, and how useless you can be made to feel, and just how attacked and how victimized if you're trying to do that without the right
And I'm going to say, I mean, I think like any impairment that we mention, there's usually many versions of it, and I think importantly that dyslexia is such a broad area because it affects, that most people think, oh, it means you can't spell, and that may well be one of the traits that any individual has. But there are I mean, we found out quite recently there are so many different ways it can affect you in terms of processing information, in terms of seeing numbers, in terms of um, the difference between seeing things visually and hearing them, or hearing them, as you said, Ju.
Audibly.
Audibly, yes, thank you. So it's kind of, if anyone's had problems with writing, with poetry, with reading, and they're never really sure why, then get someone to help you look into it. It's one of those things people say, well, if you think you're dyslexic, have a research it. It's like, oh yeah, that works. So if you do have any kind of issues around kind of processing information as well as simply reading, then I think it's kind of important that you do find out what that might be, because it really, really importantly, it has got nothing to do with intellect. It's not how clever you are. It is simply about how you process things.
Absolutely, and it's a learning difficulty, and there's many people with other forms of learning difficulty that don't have any problems reading at all. People with Down syndrome who get very, very good GCSEs because reading is not one of their learning difficulties. So absolutely, I think well, I'm not even sure it's just older people, but I think there's many generations being made to feel stupid when in fact they have dyslexia. I mean, in retrospect, I realise I've always been a disabled person through my life. But when I had a spinal fracture, and about a year kind of after that, somebody said to me from the trade union, you just have to accept the fact you're disabled. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, I thought there was something wrong with me. It's that, so I think it can be a great relief to go, actually, I simply have dyslexia.
Yeah, I think
Let's get the right support and life can just move on. And I believe on the Society site, as always, they've got lots of examples of very famous people with dyslexia just to show it shouldn't hold you back.
I didn't see that.
Sorry, in that case, that's me kind of looking through as well. But it's always good to see role models. But what you find in the visual arts, not just because people get pushed into doing more visual work, but if you find written work more challenging, there are lots and lots of very famous visual artists with dyslexia. But I'm going to move on now to a locally based artist who has a learning difficulty, but it isn't dyslexia, and that's Pritesh Patel. Pritesh is a member of our ACT UP Newham Associate Drama Company, and Sorry, Robin, were you trying to signal me?
No.
I just I'm so conscious that sometimes I turn my microphone off by mistake. I worry that nobody can hear
I
me.
was about to turn mine off, ready for the film.
Oh, okay. So anyway, Pritesh is a wonderful actor. He's quite new to ACT UP, and I was trying to think back, and I think Pritesh has been with ACT UP about 2.5 years, because obviously we can't cover all of this in the profile, but we're running profiles of disabled artists of colour and their companies all month for Black History Month, of course. But what we have had with Pritesh as well is earlier in lockdown, he was sending us quite a lot of his pictures to show on the stream, and I'd love to have more. And it was only really audio describing them that made me realize quite how sophisticated they are. The viewpoints of birds and towns and things. He was actually showing us kind of views from the sky. And you think, well, how on earth did he manage to do that? But I first met Pritesh rehearsing for the 2018 Disability History Month Festival. We have a street art partner called Natural Theatre Company. They're a wonderful company based in Bath. They've been going since the 60s. And they have a group called Natural Diversions, which are all disabled artists. And we've worked with them to develop work where we have 2 or 3 professionals join in. And then we have anybody else locally based who wants to come along. Largely ACT UP Newham plus Powerhouse Women, Starpad DJs. So quite a big group. And it was the first thing Pritesh had really done, and he just couldn't stop laughing through the rehearsals. It was very, very funny. And the second he went out there, he stayed in character the entire time. It was just very, very powerful, wasn't it? And then I saw him again, and we'll see some excerpts from this now, in the production When You See Me about circus history. We discussed that on, I think it was last Friday, when we also showed a profile of Jade Amasempari. So if you're interested in hearing more about the circus play When You See Me, then have a look at Friday's show. The recordings of all of our shows stay on the website. So this is a short profile or introduction really to Pritesh.
My name is Pritesh.
The cat was also when Noah went to sleep on the couch, Willie couldn't, so she sat on him.
Doing my painting and singing and you exercise and then see here but over.
Oh dear.
What do I do?
Maybe you should change the color of the cat.
What color?
Shall we ask the audience? Hello? What color shall we change the cat into?
Ginger, white, red, purple. Don't you know the story? Come on, quick.
Why not, darling? Don't you want to go to school?
No.
Why?
People kill me.
What do you mean people won't kill you?
Beat me up. I adopt that I clown doing maybe clown super circus.
Well, have you got kids?
No.
Let me see. Ooh, it's smelling lovely, man. You're going to throw that at me, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, it's just not funny, man. I'm coming to get you.
Clown, naughty clown, and circus.
Naughty clown, can I have a pizza, please?
No.
Ah! That's not funny, man.
Sorry.
Well, I'm still hungry because I need a pizza still.
No.
I'm coming to get you.
I show fun of. Welcome to show. Good evening. My name is Putin. 10 fun off. Listen to me. People always talk to phone. I do my film. I am Tony.
So that is Pritesh Patel. We didn't see any of his pictures there, but I will show them some more to you later in the month, because I know that before this year, Pritesh was planning his first solo exhibition, and indeed he has already exhibited some of his drawings. I was also, just thought when I saw Glory Sengo, who's the chap who was in the last couple of scenes with Pritesh, it's still virtually impossible for people with learning difficulties, and for some reason, particularly men with learning difficulties, to get access to the college courses in performing arts that, in theory, they're entitled to attend. So we're very proud of the fact that ACT UP Newham is also a training company, and using the Arts Award scheme and other nationally recognised award schemes, young people who are not able to go away to college or access courses locally because they're considered not to be able to do them are able to train with ACT UP. So, yes, I mean, I think that's actually quite a serious issue which we need to bear in mind in Black History Month. It's not just a question of seeing, yes, particularly young men doing well, but realizing the struggles that they've had to do to get to that point, and also the importance of allies, I think.
Absolutely. There's a Richard Hayhoe is I guess a facilitator. It works out of the Rep in Birmingham, who does a huge amount of work with learning disabled actors and making sure that they are getting auditions and placements and opportunities in mainstream performance opportunities, which is really cool.
Yes, and I think training is absolutely key. But like I say, I'm delighted that ACT UP Newham are able to offer such a high standard. If you have a young person at home, anybody under the age of 25, who is unable to go back to school or to college, or is being home educated because of COVID, our youth worker and indeed international artist Hazel Brill does offer the Arts Awards programme as a virtual delivery. So again, you can contact us and we can give you the information. I'm going to put some text on the bottom of the screen in a minute, but the email address is info@together2012.org.uk, and then we can send you all of the information about the youth program on social media and Facebook and the Arts Awards scheme. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Julie?
Not really, except it was a lovely insight into Pritesh and how his skill is growing and how his experience is expanding. You know, I love seeing him perform. He always makes me smile.
And I think it's as with Jade, whose speech is very affected by MS, when you see them on stage, I think it's like any performer. You don't see the performer until you see the performance. And people can make judgments about their projection and their stage discipline and everything else. And then, as with me and the street art, seeing Pritesh, the performer, for the first time was very, very impressive. Each week on a Wednesday, we have a little bit of a break and look at the outside world through the eyes of an assistance dog. We've been doing this since lockdown began, principally because my backyard, where our assistance dog goes, is so small that it's really difficult to socially distance if the neighbours are outside as well. So we were literally seeing our own yard through the eyes of the dogs. We're also now sharing Merlot's views. Merlot belongs to ACT UP Newham as well. He is the dog, he's the autism support dog for Steraplergia, who also makes art videos for us and writes poetry. So they have moved after, I think they managed to survive 4 months in a first floor flat with only a balcony for outdoor access for Merlot, and now they're literally in the middle of nowhere in a barn in Norfolk. So, hello to them. This is Merlot going for a walk, which we also think is what's now known as slow TV, where people just enjoy a little bit of nature. So, we're going to go on a walk with Merlot. I'm going to put you on virtual mute, Robin, and Julie, if you could do some audio description, that would be brilliant.
And it's a grey day, or it's a very grey day. The leaves are starting to fall as well, which is interesting. The silhouettes are changing. Merlot's pausing to consider this. The light levels really have dropped tremendously, so that's a really good indication of the time of year. His head is in front of us, with his little ears folding down and his blue collar. He's meeting somebody who he's saying hello to and walking past. There's fields everywhere which are bouncing up and down because Merlot's bouncing up and down. But he's coming up to a gate. There's all sorts of weeds over to the right, and again with a very, very grey sky. But the grass itself is actually still quite green, probably from the rain. Ahead of us are some small trees and shrubs. There's a wooden fence on the left. And Merlot is actually very enthusiastic. He's having a lovely little trot. But now he's paused, he's stopped, he's considering, he's looking around the bushes to the right, looking ahead, no, going back to the right, and he's turning around. He's paused, he's stopped, no, he's going forward, no, he's not. He's considering everything, I think, at the moment. Way off he goes again. And the path is bouncing up and down yet again, and he's pausing. I think he's considering whether or not to stop and go back. At the moment, I think he's pulled in two different directions.
Do you think those are banks to the side with ditches?
I couldn't tell you. It certainly looks like the periphery of a field. He's just done a complete circle and briefly seen his people behind him, so I think that's reassuring him. There's quite a lot of grass. The grass has grown quite thick. As I say, oh no, he's going back now. He's decided this is it. He doesn't want to go ahead on his own. And his people are saying, come on, they're putting his lead on and taking him back home. But he's had a nice run. Good old Merlot.
Yeah, thanks for that, Julie. I think they were heading towards the stables, but they never quite got there. So I think maybe where the fencing appeared, perhaps that's a kind of field where they have horses in. I think the longer I stay indoors, the more I like to watch these films of people outside. But I think also one of the advantages of being older is I've got lots of memories of the outside world, and I do think that makes it a bit easier for us to kind of in our brains to go to all sorts of places that if you're younger you might not have had the opportunity to go to. But it is finally time, I think, to put on our Join In on Wednesdays film. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Is correct, yes.
I just say this because, of course, needless to say, my schedule is now out of sight again. So I'm just going to go next to a video that will tell you a bit more about the Join In From Home program. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home program from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days, and you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. And same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book. So that is our Join In From Home programme. Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add from this morning about the Pop-Up Poetry Club?
Yes, thank you. I completely forgot to say what the theme is for next week, and that is Mum and Dad's music.
Or presumably the older generation's music for all of us who don't have mums and dads.
Definitely.
Great, so it is now time for our sport and gaming, and we will start as always with our Clockwork Paralympics. In our Clockwork Paralympics, we race clockwork toys to see which teddy bear taking part in this week's International Bear Hunt is going to wear a medal. Do you have your competitor, please, Josh?
Yes, so this is Dart and Pouncer, and they are dragons from How to Train Your Dragon.
So, should Sir Michael Rosen be watching, we do understand the concept of the bear hunt and teddy bears, but the Sutton Coldfield crowd take a rather kind of broad view. Our teddy bear, this week's competitor, is competing, I think, for the second time, is a blue teddy bear, homemade in fact, with a white nose and little orange eyes and a little red tongue peeping out. He's wearing a reflective cat collar, and his name is Nigel, after the person no longer with us who gave it to me. So this is Nigel. We have the dragon teddy bears in the West Midlands. I'm going to pop up the competitors on screen.
Yep, and we're gonna before it starts, we're gonna go for your right hand, which is stage left. So when we can see the competitors, we'll
It's
we'll tell
audience
you
left,
which one.
actually.
Can you? Oh, can you not see yet?
The green one. The one.
Is it? I think it's the green one.
Okie
We're
doke.
back to caterpillars this week, I think.
We are. So we've got 2 clockwork caterpillars about to race across my very small landing. Green versus orange. Here we go.
The competitors are away, and they look fairly even. It's a bit of a neck and neck competition so far. They're both going in a. Oh, I was going to say they're both going in a straight line. But as I said, that commentator's curse, and they both veered severely to the
I
left.
do believe green is actually at the moment, depends whether we're competing over distance or to a given point. At this stage, we don't know.
And they've now both disappeared from the screen, so we're not.
Now. They could both be disqualified, and we'll have to run this race again.
We'll have to
next
find
week.
out who Jude picks up as the winner.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
us.
so it is. Finally, we've recovered from our appalling set of
woeful-
performances over the last few weeks.
Fortunately, we're not quite as competitive as the Surgeoners, so we don't take it to heart when our
We
teddy bear
do.
doesn't have it. Oh, Judy apparently does.
We do.
Okay, I'm the only person on the show who's not as competitive as the rest, so I just think it's terribly sweet to have the teddy bears up. This, on the other hand, in Sutton Coldfield, is a household that has more than one gold plastic souvenir medal, which is all I've got. So, which of your medals are you going to put on your dragons this week?
Well, actually, and I put it down before the show, and I don't know where it went, is I have my own Newham commemorative medal, which I was going to put on today. So there you go. So I will be posthumous. Well, I hope not
I'm
posthumously.
going to say not
Hold on.
Later, you will be
I-
putting on the
I'll
medal.
be posthumously awarding the medal to our dragon.
And so, did you have one medal, or did you have a medal per dragon?
Oh, just the one.
So they share.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
You've
We're very egalitarian up here. We might be competitive, but fairness also counts.
I can't help thinking that I'm not going to. That if I ask how many of you have got the most medals in the house, I bet you could tell me. But as it is, I'm going to move on to Josh swiftly to give us our sport and virtual gaming report. I don't mean you have to give it to us swiftly. I mean I'm swiftly with you.
So we'll do sport first. We'll change it up. We'll do a bit of sport first. So the 2 big sport things that I wanted to talk about this week. The first one is that earlier in the week, British Para Swimming announced their Race the World virtual meet. So they're hosting a heats competition over a few days, and then later in the year there'll be a finals competition as well. So the way it works is that people, and you have to be an internationally registered swimmer to do this, but they will submit videos of themselves kind of racing in their home pools, so that there's no travel required or anything. Submit those videos, which will then be kind of independently officiated, and then points will be awarded similar to how they do it in kind of multi-classification events. It's all based on how close to the world record you swam, or if you beat the world record, and then they'll do it that way, and then they'll kind of take the people that win from the heats and then redo a finals event, I think in December. I just thought it was quite an interesting way of doing it in kind of virtual competitions and virtual sport.
Yeah, I mean, I can see all, of course, I can understand all the disadvantages because you're not in exactly the same conditions and so on and so forth. But with the Paralympics and Olympics still due to take place, and with Birmingham 2022 and the Commonwealth Games, I would have thought definitely going ahead. It's a great way to keep the competition going, isn't it?
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit a few months ago when the athletics did a kind of around the world competition where they were all competing simultaneously, and it was all live streamed. And the conditions, there was someone in Florida, and it was, there was no wind and it was sunny, and someone else was in somewhere in Holland, and it was absolutely chucking it down. There'll be less of that in swimming because
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
it's predominantly it's inside, and a kind of controlled environment. Obviously, altitude will play a part in it, but it's easier to control it in swimming because kind of wind isn't necessarily and kind of the weather outside isn't going to affect it as much. And then the other thing that kind of links in with Black History Month in sport, I was reading an article earlier in the week on BBC Sport with Michael Gunning, who's a swimmer who used to compete for Great Britain and then shifted to represent Jamaica, I think in 2016. But he was talking about kind of the swimming is a very white, dominated sport. Talking about there's not a huge amount of top black swimmers. There has been in history, and there are some
Yes,
current.
I was going to say, and this may come up again on Friday when we have a feature called Something for the Weekend, and we present ideas for things you can do from home, online, and offline. But we found a film, didn't we, about a black swimming team? Do you remember seeing the beginning of it? And we decided we'd watch it a little bit later when we told the surgeoners about it. But it's about a coach and a
Yes.
team and all of the discrimination they went through and the teams in America that refused to swim against them. So yes, we'll definitely come back to that on Friday.
Yeah, and because the other interesting thing is that he's gay as well, and that kind of in Jamaica it's still you can be imprisoned for kissing a man, and same-sex marriage is still illegal. So a big part of the article is him kind of talking about one of the reasons that he shifted to competing for Jamaica was to try and inspire those and support people in Jamaica and kind of use the influence of being hopefully an Olympic athlete and a Jamaican Olympic athlete and say, look, it and I'm gay to kind of those people that may be kind of scared or in the country that actually it's okay. It was a really interesting article, and he talks about some of the struggles that he's been through, and he was at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester and things like that. So yeah, it's a really interesting article. And then the other one on gaming, I had a couple of things which I'll try and get through as quickly as I can. One, very quickly, I've been playing the new Star Wars game, which is a flying game, and it is just great fun. And we talked a lot on this show around kind of the art and all of the art and the design and the story that goes into video games. I mean, it looks fantastic. I know when I was playing it, Dad said, "Oh, are you watching Star Wars?" And I was like, "No, I'm playing a Star Wars game." So yeah, the art is amazing, and the story is really kind of interesting and really compelling. So if you are a Star Wars fan and you're interested in giving it a go, I'd highly and it's kind of £35, I think. So it's on the cheaper side of kind of games nowadays. Obviously it's still £35, but
Well, I was going to
definitely
say,
worth it if you can afford it and you like Star Wars.
and as we were saying last week, the cheapest way to access games is really not to buy any of them at that price, but to subscribe to either the Microsoft Games Pass, the PlayStation 4, I believe you said last week, the PlayStation kind of gaming thing doesn't give you the same access to the new games, but it gives you access to that many that, yeah, I'm one of those people. I couldn't consider spending £35 on a theatre ticket. So I mean, a game okay lasts a lot longer, but it is a huge amount of money. But I do think these subscriptions that have popped up seem to be a very good value. So sorry, Josh, what else had you got?
Yeah, and then the final one was quite an interesting one in terms of kind of the real world application of gaming, I guess. So earlier in the year, DARPA, which is the kind of US military's research division, had a test trial of creating kind of artificially intelligent AIs that fly fighter planes, which is one, it's a good reason to always say please and thank you to kind of Alexa and Siri and things. but they kind of found the one, they ran all these trials that was best, and then they trialed it against a fighter pilot, who in a kind of flying simulator, and he was a really accomplished fighter pilot, but had never really played any simulated stuff outside of the ones they had for training. But it's not quite the same. And he got the actual fighter pilot got beaten in every single one, and there was quite a lot of talk around would the same outcome be if they put it against someone that maybe wasn't that isn't a fighter pilot, but someone that plays those games a lot and plays it competitively. So over the weekend there's a fighter pilot YouTube channel that I watch, and he had a kind of charity stream in a computer game, and he'd kind of linked in with the company, and whoever won that would then be able to is then now going to challenge this AI. And I just thought it was a really interesting kind of idea that someone that's never set foot in a fighter plane, but they're kind of pulling in from this this gamer group to test this new technology, and that actually they might be better at it than a real fighter pilot, because they're used to playing it on a computer game, whereas a fighter pilot is used to they
think
have
I
a whole
just
plane around them to know what to do.
I
And
just
that's
have
what he
to
said he
stop
really
you,
struggled with.
Josh, before we hit the repetition of fighter pilot one more time. Why can they not be doing something else? But yes, I think the principle is great. And I think if you apply it to things like driving, I think it's great. I think it's a little bit sad that that's what it's being used for. Was there anything else in sport and gaming?
No.
Brilliant. So
Done.
I say brilliant. Of course, there's lots more. We will have all of the links to the things that Josh has mentioned, including the fighter pilots, under our highlights and links page. If you go to our website, together2012.org.uk, look for Together Unlocked TV and look at the menu there. You will find the highlights and links. Like I say, there will also be the walk without Julie's commentary and the profile of Pritesh if you'd like to have a look at that. Coming up on Friday, as we said, we have something for the weekend where we recommend all sorts of things for you to do. At the beginning of the show, we also have dressing up to go out to stay in, where we dress up to go out. Although really we're staying in. It might be that we're dressing up to do something online. It might be we're dressing up to do something at home for real. Or it might be just a total flight of fancy. We'd love to see your dressing up photos. If you haven't dressed up for a while, why not just go to town, take a selfie? Or indeed, if you think, well, the problem is I just don't have the ability to take a selfie and I'm on my own, email us. We will Zoom you and get a picture that way. We'd love to see you dressing up to go out to stay in. And we'd like to see you. Our pets have started dressing up, but I suppose that's what happens 6-7 months in. So equally, if your pet is dressed up to go out to stay in, mine dressed up in I call it some Harry Potter jumper today. My assistant's dog decided it was so cold in London this morning that he was shivering, so I had to put a jumper on. I'm not sure it is that cold.
We didn't have
actually.
any heat because of the water.
Well, yes, we couldn't run the central heating, but I think considering that the surgeon has shivered through much of August and all we've done is swelter, the reality is the heating's only been on about 3 times so far anyway.
You know, we had so much rain yesterday that when I was seriously almost didn't need to go to the swimming pool to train. The roads
Well,
around here were underwater.
This is one of the problems with East London yesterday. We had flood warnings, but no water. Water everywhere, but literally not a drop to drink. Our hearts and thoughts are with you, Thames Water. So if you can't do anything else, please just keep pumping it into the system somehow. But maybe consider later whether one pipe for an entire borough is really terribly sensible. It doesn't actually sound very safe to me, but what do I know? I'm just one of the customers on your vulnerable list that you forgot to phone.
Me too.
But still, you enjoyed writing poetry about it, didn't you?
I enjoyed the water better.
Yes,
Having it
I
back.
think there is something quite alarming about being in a virus. I won't say hotspot compared to the north, but a hotspot for London, and nobody can wash their hands. But like I say, things are getting back to normal. We hope they're completely back to, if not normal, then usual by Friday, when we look forward to seeing you at 3 o'clock. The recording of this show will be up later. It's usually up by 8 o'clock. We fiddle with the audio a little bit to give you the best possible experience. We take out any flashing visuals that might give anybody seizures, and we add in the proper captions, which today have been done by Cheryl Holly. As always, the captions are coming from Global Real Time Captioning. So we look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay well,
Bye.
stay creative. Bye.